So what's up, everybody? Hope all is good. What is today? I don't know. Today's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, as we call it, Wednesday in the grown-up world. Okay. I'm Chris. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about myself in a few minutes, but I just want to say what's up. Hope y'all doing good. It's good to see everybody. Everybody looks good. Hope your summer is going good. It is hotter today than it's been in the last couple of days. So I hope it doesn't get too much hotter, but I heard it's going to be like 100 and something tomorrow and the rest of the week. So yeah. Also, you're going to hear accent in my talk and in my voice because I'm from New York originally. So for example, I say New York, not New York. I say water, not water. Okay. I don't know what that is. And then also, I am just so excited to be doing this. This is my second year doing the social justice boot camp, and you may be like, "Hey, who's this guy?" Because the guy in the picture actually doesn't look like this guy. I think a lot of us like gained a lot of weight during the pandemic. I'm one of them. I gained like more pounds than I probably should say, so I'm not going to say. But I actually lost a lot of weight like when the year started. So yeah, this is the version of me. This is the 2021 version of me. Okay. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about reparations. Ooh. And to help do that, I'm actually going to share my screen because I am somebody who brings visual aids, and I'm also somebody who talks with my hands too. So you're going to see my hands moving fast too. Okay. So, and I'm also going to be asking you questions about some of the stuff that we talk about today. All right. So if you are ready to get started, please put a 1 in the chat. That is my cue to know I can go and talk to you about reparations. So please put a 1 in the chat, and that will give me the energy and the juice that I need to go at. Until I get 5 ones, I'm not going to do anything. Okay, got 5 ones. Great. All right, let's go. I'm going to share my screen. By the way, my screen gets a little bit, shall we say, choppy sometimes if I share. So just give me a heads up if it gets too bad. I don't think we'll have that problem, but we just want to make sure, right? So I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second here. Boom, boom. All right, I'm hitting the button. All right, if you ever have to do Zooms and stuff, you know that this is the process. So, all right, share button is up. And actually, I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to restart the share because I'm going to share a video with you. And so I want to make sure that I hit the right buttons to optimize the sound. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen right now. It should look like some slides. And actually what I'm going to do, I'm not selfish. I'm not stingy. I'm going to give you the actual link to the slides that I'm looking at so you can have them for yourself. You can follow along if you want, or you can take a nap right now and then look at them later. Okay. Whatever, floats your boat, right? So I'm going to put the link in the chat to the slides that I'm looking at. Let me just do that right now. Stop texting. Boom. Okay, there we go. All right. Oops. Sorry about that first part there. I was trying to type somebody's name that got in there. So that's the link again. Boom. Okay. So let's get started. We're going to talk about the reparations today. So my screen should be coming up. You should see a blank screen. And of course, somebody's going to start doing the mowing of the lawn as soon as I talk, right? So let's talk about reparations. As you know, this is the Reparations 101 for BYLP, Social Justice Bootcamp. Today is the 28th, I believe, and I am your host, Chris Lodgson, with the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, or what we call CJEC. I'm just a regular dude here in Sacramento who has had the privilege, really, of being a part of some of the really new and really exciting things that are going on for reparations. We call ourselves the reparations generation. I'm technically a millennial. Okay, so millennials, if you are a millennial, please put a 1 in the chat. I think there are going to be no other millennials on this call. You're going to be something like a Gen Zs or whatever comes after Gen Zs, which makes me feel even older. So if you're a millennial, put a 1 in the chat. If you're a Gen Z, put a 2 in the chat. If you're a Gen X, put a 3 in the chat. And if you're a boomer, put a 4 in the chat. We love our boomers, so put a 4 in the chat. So if you're a millennial like me, it's a 1. If you are a Gen Z, that means like younger than me. just put a 2 if you are a Gen Xer, 3, and a Boomer, 4, right? We are, all of us together, what we are calling the reparations generation. And you'll understand more about why we're calling ourselves that in a few minutes. All right. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about reparations. What is that, right? And also reparations for who? And also reparations for what, right? Like, what are we talking about? We'll talk a little bit about what we call the 5 forms of reparations. If you don't know, you will know. And we're going to talk about where are we now with the reparations, AKA where we at with it, okay, right now. Right? So that's what we'll do today. But before that, we want to do a couple of other things. And that is, we want to dance, but understand. All right. So watch this.
It's time. It's time. It's time. I know it's time. The generation for reparation. Pay up, time to pay up. Reparation. Right now, reparations. Simply ours, you know it's you. Pay up, time to pay up. Right now, reparations. Pay up, time to pay up. Right now, reparations. Time for reparations. Right now, time for reparations. Time for reparations. Right now, time for reparations. Reparations for building this nation. Lynching and burning castration. Selling children, family separation. Right now, time for reparations. Millions of slave ships landed, whipped, chained, and branded. 300 years of free labor. We ain't asking for no favor. Time to pay. Right now, time for reparations. Time for reparations. Right now, time for reparations. Pay up, time to pay up. Right now, reparations. Pay up, time to pay up. Right now, reparations. Reparations for reconstruction. Red summers of destruction. Segregation, Jim Crow corruption. Right now, time for reparations. Reparations for the Constitution. Said we were 3/5 human. Reparations are overdue. 40 acres and from you. Time for reparations. Time for reparations. Time for reparations. Time for reparations. Right now, time for reparations. Pay up, time to pay up. Right now, reparations. Pay up, time to pay up. Right now, time for reparations. Time for reparations. The
Time to pay up. Want to give a big shout out to the Sounds of Blackness. That is a video and the song that they did. I believe they released it last month, and it's exactly what I'm thinking and what a lot of Black folks are thinking right now. So in the chat, put hashtag pay up. Type hashtag pay up in the chat, and also go to YouTube and check out Sounds of Blackness and watch this video 4, 5, 10, 20 times. Also, copy the link and share with somebody in your family, share it with one of your friends, right? Share it on your social media. Also, it's time for reparations, right? And that is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to go forward here and not play this again, but thanks to the Sounds of Blackness. So, in that song, we saw some things, we heard some things, and we saw the word reparations, but really, what do we mean by the word reparations, right? And we use this word a lot. So I'm going to share with you just a very simple, very publicly accessible definition of reparations, right? Something that you can just find if you were looking online, something that's very, very simple. But I really want to know what you think reparations mean. So in the chat, what does reparations or do reparations mean to you? What does that word mean to you? That's what I want to know from you in the chat. And while you're thinking about that and while you're thinking through that, here's what an easy definition of reparations sounds like. Very simply, reparations is just making amends for a wrong done by paying money and helping those who have been wronged. Okay? So just making amends for something that's wrong by paying money or helping those who have been wronged. That is a very simple definition of reparations. And if you don't know what the word amends mean, it's just a way to say make better, right? Or make things better, right? So that's just what that means. So when I'm talking about reparations in this conversation, that is what I'm generally talking about, right? Making amends, making things better for a harm done by paying money and helping those who have been wronged, okay? Very simple definition, right? Nothing that is complicated to understand about that. Now, reparations for what though, right? What are we talking about? And in that video we just watched by the Sounds of Blackness, there were some images and some things that they were saying in there about reparations and why and what reparations are for. Very simply though, very generally, when we're talking about reparations, we're talking about reparations for slavery, for Jim Crow, which is the period that came after slavery, and for what's going on today, okay? So what we're talking about is the period of slavery, is the period of Jim Crow, and the period of today. And you see the pluses in between those, right? I don't want to make this a math class because who wants to do math at 11 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday, right? At home, except me. But it's important to think about those plus signs, right? Like in math, what do we have plus signs for? We have plus signs to add things together, right? So the important point about this and about those pluses is for reparations, we're talking about slavery and or plus Jim Crow, and slavery plus Jim Crow plus what's going on today. And it's important to think about reparations that way, because sometimes when we talk about reparations, we talk about reparations for slavery, right? Or reparations for Jim Crow, or reparations for something that's going on today. Actually, we are talking about reparations when I'm talking about it, and when we're talking about it today, we're talking about it in a way that means slavery plus and Jim Crow plus and what's going on today. Okay, so slavery, Jim Crow, and what's going on today. That's the for what. For who? Who are we talking about, right? Well, the answer to that question is actually really simple if you agree with what we just said about reparations for what, right? There's only one group of people who experienced slavery and Jim Crow and what's going on today, all those things together. And that group of people are people like me, some of you, some of the amazing folks you have who work with BYLP and make this great organization go. Those of us Black Americans whose ancestors built this country. Those of us Black Americans who are what we call descendants or descended from or in the same family of people who were enslaved, went through Jim Crow, and are experiencing harm today. So that's the for who. So we have a what is reparations, we have a reparations for what, and we have a reparations for who. But that is, of course, not all we can say about reparations, right? Like, what is it supposed to look like? Like, what kind of reparations, forms are there? Like, what do reparations actually look like in the real world? Well, there's some ideas about that I want to share with you all, okay? And I'll do that right now. But before I do that, I want to ask you again to think about what reparations means to you, and I'm going to add another part to that question. So, in addition to what do reparations mean to you, what kinds of reparations do you think would be good for Black people? So, money or land or businesses or healthcare or education. What do you think, what kinds of reparations, what forms of reparations would make sense to you? That's the question that I want to add to that first question. So the first part is, what do reparations mean? And then the second part is, what forms or what should they look like? And I'm going to help you as you're thinking about that answer, because a lot of folks have been thinking about those questions here in the United States, but not just in the United States, obviously all across the world, where there have been reparations going on in different parts of the world for a long time. So here are some different forms, what we call the hashtag 5 forms of reparations. Now, these aren't the only 5 forms of reparations. These are definitely not the only 5 forms of reparations, but these are just general ways to think about what the different forms of reparations could be. And a lot of the different kinds of reparations actually fit inside of one of these forms. Okay, so I want to go through these with you and have some thinking about this. So the first form is compensation. Okay, compensation, pretty simple, right? Compensation, that is paying, that is usually financial, that's usually monetary, right? Some form of compensating or paying of the parties or the people or the groups who the wrong was done to, right? And think back to our definition of reparations, our very simple definition, right? We are doing something to make amends or to improve or to pay or compensate, in this case, for a harm that was done. So the first form that reparations can take is compensation, okay? The second form that reparations can take is what we call restitution, okay? Restitution. And restitution just is a fancy way to say restoring or trying to restore or bring back the people or the group or the person that was harmed to the place that they were before they were harmed, okay? So that's what we mean by restitution. And reparations can take the form of restitution as well as compensation. There's another form of reparations that I want to talk to you about, because it's actually pretty related to the last form that we just talked about, which was restitution. The next form, or the third form, is hashtag rehabilitation. And the hashtag is actually not a part of it, but I thought it would look cool. So rehabilitation, okay? Rehabilitation is another form of reparations, right? Another form of what reparations could look like. And that is rehabilitating or making someone healthier or a group healthier or better based on or to correct the harm that you have done. So it's similar to restitution, but it's a little bit different. And rehabilitation is a very important part of what the 5 forms of reparations are. And again, these are 5 forms, but they're not the 5 only forms. And hey, you may have some ideas about what other forms of reparations there should be and what other categories or types of reparations there could be. So definitely want to hear your ideas on that too. Satisfaction, another type of form of reparations. And when we're talking about satisfaction, what we're talking about is an agreement by the group that was harmed with the group that is doing the reparations for the harm, that the debt or the wrong has been satisfied or has been taken care of, that the harm that was done has been corrected based on the other parts of these forms of reparations. But the important thing to think about here is that satisfaction and agreement by the group that actually had the harm done to them, that's a big part of any reparations, right? If we're not satisfied as a group with the reparations, then it's not reparations, right? So our satisfaction as the group that has been harmed is a big part of reparations, at least that's how we think about it. Okay, and then the last form I want to talk to you about today is guarantees of non-repetition. And I couldn't get guarantees of non-repetition in one hashtag and make it look good. So that's why you don't have it all there like that. So guarantees of non-repetition. Okay, let's take these piece by piece. So a guarantee is just something that you are sure of, right? So something that you make sure of, right? To guarantee is another way to say make sure, right? And then non-repetition, so non means no, right? And then repetition, the root word there is repeat, right? You can see the repeat there, right? So make sure no repeat, or make sure this doesn't happen again. Guarantee that this or the things that motivated or made us do the reparations in the first place will not happen again. And that guarantee is a big part of the forms that reparations should take, right? That guarantee by the group or the party or the people or the government, in our case, that actually did the wrongs to us, that guarantee is a big part of a reparations plan. And I want to show you this graphic. It's a cool little graphic that I helped make with my folks at the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. And you can see on the top there, it says 5 forms of reparations the California Reparations Task Force could consider: compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition. I'm going to talk to you right now, or in the next slide, really quickly about the California Reparations Task Force and what that is, right? So you don't know what that is yet, right? I just threw that word there. But compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition, again, are 5 generally accepted forms of reparations. And where does this come from, right? Where does this come from? So right now, if you Googled United Nations and forms of reparations, you would see that the United Nations has been working on reparations in different countries for a long, long time. And there's been a lot of work done on what the 5, what we call internationally accepted forms of reparations are. And these are 5 of them. Now, I think when we get our reparations, we're gonna add to this list and make it even stronger. But to start, this is what the whole world thinks of when we think of and talk about reparations. Okay. Let's keep going. We're almost done. We're going to get to your questions and your comments and your thoughts and your stuff in the chat too. I can't wait. But I do want to talk to you about where we are now, AKA where we at with it though, right? And I want to actually welcome you. And I'm giving a talk on Saturday at Queen Sheba, by the way, to talk about reparations at what I'm calling the Black State of the City. And you know, I've been doing some brainstorming and like some pre-thinking about what I want to talk to Black folks about later on this week. And the one thing that I know that I want to do is welcome everybody to history, okay? And I want to do that with you all here too. Welcome to history. We have never been, as a people, closer to anything like reparations than we are right now. And I would say never, with the exception of us being promised 40 acres and a mule and then having that promise taken away back after the Civil War. So if you don't know, after the Civil War, right after the Civil War, when Abraham Lincoln signed what we call the Emancipation Proclamation, or at the end of the Civil War, or near the end of the Civil War, that was supposed to make us no longer people who were enslaved, right? But that doesn't mean that you have what you need to actually live, right? Like you don't have money, you don't have a place to live, you don't have food, right? You don't, so what we were promised was reparations. And that promise came in the form of what we think of as 40 acres and a mule. How many people have heard of the words 40 acres and a mule before you saw it in that Sounds of Blackness video? If you've heard 40 acres and a mule before, type a 1 in the chat or a yes in the chat. If you haven't, type a 2 or a no. But 40 acres and a mule, 40 acres and a mule. That was what we were promised at the end of the Civil War as reparations. And every family was supposed to get 40 acres and a mule. And a mule at that time was the equivalent, I think you could probably think of it as like a like a pickup truck, or like something that like you use, or like a like a farm track, something that you use to like, do like, like work with, right? So something that's actually going to bring you even more resources, right? So, and then 40 acres, right? 40 acres of land. And every Black family was supposed to get 40 acres of land. And that meant every Black person, every person who was a descendant of persons enslaved at that time would get about 10 acres of land individually. Now, let's think about this for a second. 40 acres is huge, okay? Huge, huge. In 2013 land, 40 acres, you could build 200 homes on 40 acres, okay? I'll say that again. In 2013 land, you could build 200 homes on 40 acres. Every single one of our families was supposed to get 40 acres, okay? Could you imagine the kind of land, the kind of business, the kind of agriculture and all kind of property, all kinds of amazing things that we could have done with that with 200 homes worth of land plus tractors and pickup trucks, right? Like, so much. We were supposed to get that. We were promised that, and that promise was taken away. Some Black folks actually started to get that land, and then the government came back and took it away and actually gave it to, very sadly, gave it to the people who used to be the people who kept us enslaved. Okay, so we have a lot to think about and a lot to work on, and I want to welcome you to history because it's not until now, since then, that we've actually come close to anything like reparations. Okay? So California started a reparations task force actually back in June of this year, and it was a historic thing to happen. We've never had a state anywhere in our country that's put together a task force or a group of people. And a task force is just another way to say a team or a group of people. And this team and this group of people have the job of, one, studying, gathering evidence, collecting stories for reparations and for what California did back during slavery and back during Jim Crow and what California is doing today. The second thing the task force or team is supposed to do is figure out a way to educate you and the rest of the California public about what it finds out. And then the last thing this team or task force has to do is they have to actually figure out what reparations should be for Black folks here, specifically in California, to start, right? This is something that's never, ever, ever, ever happened before. And it just happened here for the first time, the first meeting, at least, on June 1st of 2001. Excuse me, 2021. June 1st, 2001 was when I graduated from high school. Okay, I'm not sure why I'm going back that far. So this is a historic thing. This has never, ever, ever happened before. Right? The task force had their second meeting on July 9th of 2021. And hey, if you missed those meetings, you can go on to YouTube right now. And if you go to YouTube and go to ETM Media Group on YouTube, so ETM Media Group on YouTube, which is one of our media partners here, you can see the live stream of the California Reparations Task Force meetings that just happened in July, earlier this month, and also that happened in early June as well. Also, the California Reparations Task Force has a website too. The California Reparations Task Force has its own website where you can find all of the videos for the last Reparations Task Force meeting. So that's if you missed it, all right? But generally, this task force or this team has 9 members. 5 of those members were appointed by the governor of California right now, Gavin Newsom. 2 of those members of the task force or team were chosen by the president of our state Senate, okay? And then, or the leader of our state Senate. Tony Atkins, and then 2 of those task force members were chosen by what we call the speaker, or just another way to say the leader of our California Assembly. So California, if you don't know, has a governor, and then it has people who make the laws, right? And we have state senators and we have state assembly people too who make our laws, as I'm sure you know, and working with this team at BYLP. So some of the members of the team or task force for California reparations were chosen by people who are in our state legislature, and some were chosen by the governor. The task force has a maximum of 2 years to actually do its work, and they will have at least 10 public meetings. Okay. 4 things you need to know about the California Reparations Task Force. I actually just said all that. So the only thing that I didn't say is that they are going to need your help, right? So right now you can actually email, reach out to, submit comments to the California Reparations Task Force right now. You can do that through their California Reparations Task Force email. You can show up or come to one of the next Reparations Task Force meetings, and look out for what we think are going to be a series of what we call listening sessions and public community meetings in Black communities all around California. So you will have your chance and your opportunity to talk to, share your thoughts with the California Reparations Task Force. And they need to hear from young folks. We're technically young folks, right? But reparations after the Z's, okay? We need to hear from, and the task force needs to hear from you, right? Because it's your California that you're growing up into, right? The future of California is you, right? So you should be involved. What happens with your state of California Reparations Task Force, which is a first ever in the nation. And I'll say that again. No state has ever done anything like this ever. So welcome to history. Last thing I'll say is meet your California Reparations Task Force. Dun, dun, dun. All right, I'll start on the bottom left of the screen and then go up. Okay, so the bottom left is, you'll see the hand there for a woman named Camilla V. Moore. Camilla V. Moore is the chair of the California Reparations Task Force. Camilla V. Moore is also a millennial. She is a lawyer. She is someone who spent a lot of her time in college and after college, and then doing more college and more college on top of college, studying reparations. She, if you ask me, is the most qualified and was the most qualified person to actually chair or lead the California Reparations Task Force. So that's Camilla Moore. Above Camilla, you have Lisa Holder. Lisa Holder is an attorney, a civil rights attorney, I believe, based out of the Southern California, Los Angeles area as well. Above Lisa Holder is Dr. Javon Scott Lewis. Dr. Javon Scott Lewis is a professor, I believe, out of UCLA. To his right, you have Don Tamaki. Okay, Don is probably the least melanated looking brother on there. Okay. Okay, now Black folks come in all kinds of shades and hues, right? But no, Don is actually a Japanese Californian American. Don's dad got reparations from the U.S. government because Don's dad was stolen and taken from his home and his business right here where I'm sitting in Sacramento, and driven up 20 minutes away to another way to say it is a jail. We call it an internment camp, but really it was a jail. And this happened during World War II because Don's family comes from Japan, and the United States was at war with Japan in World War II. Remember, we dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan in World War II. And so because Americans were suspicious of Japanese people. Americans said it was okay for Japanese people to be stolen, taken, and then jailed for no reason other than being Japanese. Okay. So Don's dad had that happen to him, and Don fought for reparations for his dad, and the United States government, our government, paid reparations to Japanese Americans in 1989. I think every family or every Japanese American who was affected and who was eligible got $20,000 plus a whole bunch of other stuff too. Every single one of them. So Don is someone who has experience actually in reparations in the past. Below Don is Dr. Cheryl Grills. Dr. Cheryl Grills, I believe, is also based in Southern California, and she does a lot of work in mental health. Below her, you've got Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. So Assembly Member, as you know, as I was just saying, is someone who is in our state assembly. It's one of the people who make our laws, and Assembly Member Reggie Jones Sawyer is one of the people on the task force. Top right is Senator Stephen Bradford. Senator Stephen Bradford is also a senator and the chair or leader of the California Legislative Black Caucus. Below him is Monica Montgomery Stepp, City Councilwoman Monica Montgomery Stepp of District 4 in San Diego. And last but not least is Dr. Amos Brown. That's to the right bottom there, Dr. Amos Brown. He is based out of the Bay Area. Long civil rights history. I think he said like Dr. Martin Luther King was like one of his teachers or something like that. So Dr. Amos Brown is also a member of the task force. Last thing I'll say is the vice chair or the vice leader or the vice president, if you want to think about it like that, of the task force is Dr. Amos Brown. So the chair or the leader or the president, if you want to think about it like that, is Camilla V. Moore, and the vice chair, vice president, vice leader is Dr. Amos Brown. Okay. That's a lot. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because you've been looking at slides the whole time. Okay? So what I want to do is, one, look at your comments first, and then two, ask you, what are your questions? Do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts? What do reparations mean to you? What do reparations look like to you, or should they look like to you? And do you have any questions for me that don't sort of fit in there? All right, I'm seeing hands go up. All right. Is that you, Sam? Come on, Sam. Talk to me.
So I was gonna say with like the thing after the Civil War, like the the Reconstruction period, Andrew Jackson was a big part in making all of those, canceling the 14th, 13th, and 15th Amendment, basically making it irrelevant, basically installing slavery in jails and then unfairly jailing Black people so that it could just be like, you got out of slavery, but then you're in slavery, but it's just called mandatory labor.
Sam, I need to give you a job application. Okay. Oh my goodness. I should not be surprised because I know you work with amazing people here at Black Youth Leadership Project, but wow. Everything you said was 100% correct. And you used a word that I don't think I even used. I may have used it, but I don't think I did. You used the word reconstruction, right? Reconstruction, right? This is the time right after the Civil War where we had just, technically been, freed, but the Civil War was just ending. And this is the time when our government said, okay, we are going to try to make this right, try to make this better after all of the things that we did. But as Sam just expertly pointed out, and Sam, you need to be, I need to get you to do some expert testimony at the next California Reparations Task Force meeting, which we think will be in September. But Sam is 100% right, okay? The reconstruction period that Sam is talking about is so, so important, right? Remember, we talked about something called 40 acres and a mule. That was supposed to go to us during the reconstruction period and during this reconstruction time. A lot of other things were supposed to happen during that reconstruction time too that were good for us. But as Sam said, and Sam spoke about a name that I didn't use either. The name is Andrew Jackson. Okay? Andrew Jackson. Okay, and Andrew Jackson was the president after Abraham Lincoln. What happened to Abraham Lincoln? Okay. What happened to Abraham Lincoln? Does anyone know? Sam?
He got assassinated.
Right. And yeah, and assassinated is another way to say someone took his life, someone killed him right after the Civil War. And so the things that he was working on stopped. And the person who came after him, Andrew Johnson, did not like Black people at all. And so he said, 40 acres and a mule, nope. Or rights for Black people, nope. Do we want to do reconstruction and help build Black communities? Nope. Okay? And that was a big mistake, obviously, right? So thank you so much, Sam. You're absolutely right, Sam. Sam, you're going to do the presentation next year, okay? Because obviously I'm too old for this. I mean, do I have to feel even older now? Like, all right, like you are so smart. So yes, you're going to come do this next year. Other questions? Feel free to unmute and jump on in.
Can you talk about basically the global push and how that impacts what we're trying to do here for kind of like you know what I'm trying to say, what we're trying to do here in the United States when it comes to reparations for a specific group of people that was harmed?
Yes, absolutely. So reparations is going on all across the world, right? For different groups of people, right? And for specific groups of people, right? So there's a lot that we can learn from what's going on around the world. And to be honest with you, a lot of what's going on around the world, we think can help support the work that we're doing. But generally around the world, reparations are for specific groups of people who have been specifically wronged or had some specific harm or wrong done to them. So for example, Jamaica right now, there's a, if you Google Jamaica and reparations right now, you'll get a story from like last week where Jamaica is going to the British to get reparations for what happened to the Jamaicans, right? The Jamaicans were enslaved in Jamaica, right? And the country that enslaved them were the British, right? So Jamaica is going for reparations from the British. There's a story in the last 2 or 3 months about, I believe it's the country of Angola. It's one of the West African countries. So I'm going to mess the name up, but it's one of the West African countries where there was slavery and colonialism there. They're going for reparations to the EU or to one of the countries in Europe that enslaved them, right? And very similar to that, here in the United States, those of us Black Americans like me and like many of you whose ancestors were enslaved in this country and still built the richest, country on the planet, still built the most powerful country on the planet. I mean, let's give some love to our ancestors. Right? Like, and I want to say this to you all too. You have nothing to be ashamed of, okay? And I'm going to answer I'm going to finish answering your question, Lorraine, but I do want to say this. You have nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to what our people did, okay? Our people are a miracle, okay? You are a miracle. Yes, you, right there, you, yes. You are a miracle, okay? The fact that you were able to go through what you went through, and you were so strong that you were able to go through it and then come out strong, and then also build the most powerful, richest country on the planet that anyone has ever seen, all right? That's you, right? That's you, right? There's nothing to be ashamed of, and everything to be proud of, right? So be proud of what your ancestors did, right? Be proud of what they put in you, and everything that they had is in you, right? They just passed it down, right? Passed it down. Okay, let me finish answering the question. So just like the reparations are going on in different places in the world, and specific groups of people are fighting for reparations from the specific groups that did them harm, so we here in the United States are going for our reparations for our specific group of people against a specific country. It's our own country that did us harm. So we're going for reparations for our US government, and we're fighting for reparations for those of us whose ancestors went through that for what thing, right? That slavery plus Jim Crow plus what's going on today. All of those are connected, and so we're fighting for reparations for that. Other questions? Thank you for that good question. I do want to just say one last thing and one last time. The California Reparations Task Force, which is real, which is happening right now, needs your thoughts. It needs your ideas. It needs to hear from young folks. It needs to hear from people who work with young folks. It needs to hear from advocates who are fighting to make sure that Black folks and young folks get the kind of education that they need and support that they need from the schools here in Northern California and in California in general. Part of the reparations here in California, if you ask me, must have an education component to it. Okay? And who better to help make that than you? So connect with the California Reparations Task Force and connect with me, and we can help make that happen. All right. Feel free to reach out to me if there are any other follow-up questions. And yeah, have a great day. Have a great weekend. This is my last meeting of the day. I don't have any other meetings until Saturday. This is my Friday.
Well, we thank you for taking the time to come out and impart the information into the young folks. I think that what we have to get them more comfortable in doing is really speaking out. I know Sam is very comfortable, but the rest of you who are listening and who are, taking this information in, like we talked about yesterday, these are community teachers. They are not going to respond to you like you may be used to people responding to you in educational settings. So it's incumbent upon you, if there's something you want to know, if there's something that's unclear, for you to ask questions. And questions are okay. We encourage questions here because we want to make sure that the information sticks. So, just that getting that other key, you might not use it immediately, and you might, but just having that key on your key ring could really provide you with access to a certain thing. So Chris, I absolutely appreciate you being here. And I look forward to connecting with the Reparations Task Force, because I got a lot to say about education.
Sure. Yes.
And we will not be playing this game. So
Nope.
it's important to me as someone who is involved in this area, that they really funnel money to groups who are really on the front lines of this, not just people that they're used to seeing or people they want to see. I want them to start funneling money to people they don't want to see, because those are the people that really need the resources. So I have adults on this call, and I want to know if you all have any questions, because adults, we don't know everything. But if you all have any questions, I know you were trying to make space for the young folk. But if there are any adults on this call who want to ask a clarifying question, see how you can get involved in California's push, or folks in other states who, want to know anything, now is your time to really ask those questions. And I'm gonna pick on somebody if I don't get a volunteer.
Yes, and even if you're not in California too, because there's stuff going on all across the country.
What about you, Kathy? You always got a question or three.
You know what? I knew you were gonna call on me, girl. Okay, so Chris, this is great. So I was just thinking about, like, our high school students. Our high school students have, BSU. How can they start advocating for reparations? What would you suggest they begin doing?
Yeah, no, great question. So one, Yeah, the BSU's got to be connected to this. So one, I think I think BSU's have like regular meetings, right?
Yes.
Regular-ish meetings, right? So so the first thing that the BSU's can do is get California reparations on your next BSU agenda for your next meeting. And feel free to reach out to me or to Lorraine, and Lorraine can connect you with me. And I'm more than happy to come and talk to your BSU about what's going on with the state task force. Part of my job is to inform and educate as many Black folks as I can about what's going on. So that's the first thing you can do is connect with myself and connect with some of the folks who are actually working on the state task force work now. Because before you can start advocating, you want to get informed and get educated.
Information, right.
The first, right. So that's the first thing. But then the second thing, after that starts to happen, I would really encourage the BSU, the specific one that you're talking about, but also others too, to actually start to send comments and send your thoughts and ideas about this effort to the actual task force directly, right? And you can do that.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna, if I could really quickly here, pull up just grab a website for you and put a link in the chat. I have it right now, so it's not gonna be too
And
hard.
I just want to let you know too, Chris, I work with our Black families in the school district. And if there's a link or something that you can give me, because I just started developing a newsletter for our Black family group. So if you could give me that newsletter, if you could send it to me, that'd be great. Because I'm on my iPad and I don't know how to work this stuff with the iPad.
Nah, no worries.
I'm used to
at
my
all.
computer.
Yeah, no worries at all. No, I just dropped a link in the chat, and I just dropped an email in the chat. But I'll make sure that I get this to Laureen too.
Okay.
The email, so the link is to the California Reparations Task Force website itself. Okay, and there you can find the videos from the last meetings, all the minutes from the last meetings, the email to email the task force directly, all the meeting materials, and there's a lot of other stuff there too. And you should expect that to be, you should expect more stuff to be added to that website, because one of the things that we've been doing over the last month or two is talking to the task force about community engagement and how they can better engage, right, the Black community as they get started, right? They haven't started their work fully yet. So as they get started, so expect more ways to contact and to be in touch with them. But yeah, that's the second thing. Once you've gotten some education around this with your BSU, then the next step is to, there's a step in between, right? Because you then want to start to think about, and start to put down in some form, if you don't have it already, like, what would reparations look like to you, right, as a BSU, right, and the things that you care about. So, get some education around this, and I'm happy to help make that happen. Start to put your own ideas together, and then, start to give your comments and your thoughts to the task force directly now, right? They are looking for it. They want it now, and so now is the time.
The other thing, Chris, I was thinking about when you were having your hashtags, I was also thinking about hashtag redlining, because we need reparations for that. So I was just talking to my mom, and when she came here to Sacramento, she was just saying, they would call up back in the 60s to try and rent places, and they would ask, "What color are you?" And so my dad was kind of like me. He probably said, "I'm white. Why?" or something like that, or "Why you asking?"
I think that's a great story to add to the reparations task force, to give them, they have that information.
They hear that story.
Because what I've seen around, what I've seen is they, like, on chats and stuff, they say, well, there was no slavery in California. So, but they neglect to even look at the other contributing factors that came out of that system of slavery. Right. Affect us today. So we have to be clear, and getting the information is the first part of being able to adequately respond to somebody who's spewing nonsense. You have to know the information. So
and slavery looks different. Slavery is the underpinning of it, the foundation, but it just looks different how it comes out.
So let me say this too. So one thing that we're going to learn in this effort, and I know we have some other things to get to. I know you have another one to get to, but just quickly, Well, one of the things that we're going to learn, that you're going to learn, unfortunately, that we're already learning, is that California, one, there was slavery in California. Okay. And if you don't believe that, just you can talk to Jonathan Burgess, who is a descendant of one of the first Black families here in California, who's one of the first Black families to even get here in 1849, right? Came here enslaved. Okay. And then there was slavery during the gold rush and in the mines here in Northern California too. These are things that we're just learning about our state now through this effort. And unfortunately, we're gonna learn a lot more. But your story, your redlining story, is a story, like, they need to hear that story, like, just like that, right?
Well, that's my mom.
So yeah,
She was sitting here,
redlining.
my mom, she was sitting here listening, and she said something. And I said, Mom, and she goes, oh yeah, when we were. So anyway, she told me the story. She just told it to me. So
yeah, they need to hear from you and your mom and everyone who's had every experience of racism and of oppression that we have experienced. I mean, this is the time to, like, get it out and to, like, get it on the record and like let it out. And we need that, because part of what we also have to do is build the public support that we're going to need ultimately to actually get the reparations proposals, right? We don't just want to, do the storytelling. We actually want reparations too, right? So yeah, but no, thank you for that.